Hello and welcome back to the Weekend Handyman. Today I'm working on the back of the Jeep again. However, this time I'm not doing anything with my onboard air. I am removing this bumper, taking down that trailer hitch, because I have a nice new aftermarket rear bumper, a skid plate, and then I gotta build a tire carrier on top of said bumper. The bumper is made by Ars Fabrication. Very good. It is the same style of bumper as the front bumper that I have, so it should match nicely. The skid plate, gas tank skid plate, is JCR Off-Road, and then the tire carrier is made by Dirtbound Off-Road. We'll just leave it at that. So first, I gotta drop everything back here, which, well, by everything I mean the bumper and the trailer hitch. So let's see how that works out. Skid plate. I must say JCR Off-Road has probably the best finish work on bare metal parts that I've ever worked with. I hardly had to do any cleaning. If anything, it was just wiping off the oils and stuff on it, but there was no weld slag or anything that I needed to sand down. Just roughed it up a little bit, took some acetone to it, and I just kind of been painting it. Alright, so as you just saw, I got the bumper and the trailer hitch out. Really wasn't too bad. So next what I have to do is pull out that Ars Fab bumper, sort of kind of hang it where it's supposed to go, so I can figure out how I'm going to make the tire carrier work on top of it. I don't really have to worry about placement of the skid plate quite yet, so I'm not gonna hang that off there, and I'm painting it right now anyway, so I can't. But I gotta figure out how to get that Ars fabrication bumper in there, and then start some fabrication. Alright, so I have my new rear bumper hung in place loosely for now, so I could figure out how I'm supposed to combine the tire carrier to this bumper. Technically this bumper doesn't usually have a tire carrier mounted on it. The company that makes it has in the past added a tire carrier to it, but they don't normally offer that. So I went around and found a tire carrier that I liked, made by a company called Dirtbound Off-Road, and am going to figure out how to make it work on this bumper. Technically the tire carrier is made for their Mojave line of bumpers, which is very similar to what this Ars fabrication bumper looks like. So I'm going to take a look at the online instructions that they offer and see what I need to hammer and bend and weld. If you're wondering, I did go with the DIY version of the tire carrier, of course, because it's going to involve some fabrication, so I'm going to have to also build the entire thing, which isn't a big deal. I've got the skills and some of the tools. Alright, so I'm going to first put together the swing arm. So this part would be where it pivots on the bumper, and then where the tire carrier upright part goes would be over on this end somewhere, and that would be where the tire gets mounted. So in order to figure out the correct positioning of the mounting location for this pivot tube over here, I need to first at least build this arm, or tack the arm in place, so I could sort of hold it up against the Jeep to see where things will sit on this bumper compared to the bumper this is supposed to actually go on. So I'm just going to pull out the welder and then tack this together. And then once that's done, I can then take the hinge for this end and then tack it to the bumper, so then I can figure out what needs to get cut, bent, and whatnot. So let's get to it. So right now, of course, I am welding or tacking in place the pivot tube to the first section of tubing, and I considered not saying anything about it, but I will say that Dirtbound Off-Road has pretty poor customer service. That pivot tube showed up at my door completely missing, and furthermore, the tire carrier was shipped without anything pointing to any sort of instructions, which isn't a big deal, but they didn't tell you where to look for instructions. There's nothing available online, so I had to email them asking them for some sort of guidance so I knew what pieces went where, because there's a lot of little pieces and a lot of big pieces too. And it took a couple pokes to actually get them to respond, and they eventually pointed me to a YouTube video that they have. It actually worked out well. But that was the first thing that happened. Or, well, the second thing. Because of that, that's, of course, the pivot tube was also missing. And it took a few emails for them to respond to that as well. And then I finally got a response and was told that the pivot tube would get shipped to me, but wasn't for another couple weeks until I started to get in contact with them again, and eventually it was finally shipped out and was shipped to me within a couple days, which worked out well, but it sort of, kind of lacked a little bit of, responsiveness, because in order to get a hold of them, you gotta either call or email a couple times, and then they'll respond to you, and then, in my case, they seem to have forgotten about it, and either never planned on shipping the pivot tube or just forgot. Either way, it's not a good situation, it doesn't look too good. But They have at least a decently designed tire carrier in terms of looks and whatnot. But, you know, you do what you did. So here the swing arm is mostly complete. Just going around and tacking pieces here and there. And as you saw, I had a nice straight edge for myself so I can make sure that it was perfectly aligned. This piece is the upright. Now I sort of lack the proper tool to actually bend this. So what I had to do is, what you're seeing here is expand on the rear cuts a bit, and then just smash the shit out of it with a hammer and put my weight into it, which worked, but it kind of messed up the upright, which I later fixed, but kind of messed it up a little bit. But as you can see, I'm being pretty careful about making sure things are squared and in the right spot and whatnot. Normally, if you were to mount this bumper on the normal bumper, that swing arm would actually have a little bit of a bend, which is why there's a gap in that very first piece and the second piece. We kind of put a bend in it, but I wanted it perfectly straight. So now this is where things get interesting, because this hinge setup is a little bit different on this bumper than it would be on the bumper it's supposed to go onto. Doesn't quite fit the same way, but it almost does. Right now it's just held on with fabricator's tape. But there's a few things I need to make sure of. It needs to clear this so I can get this in and out. It needs to also clear this bumper, so if you try and shut it or whatnot, it doesn't hit the bumper. And I also need to think about where the bottom hinge piece is going to go. Now, unfortunately, I have to completely remake that. The one that this tire carrier would normally come with just won't work at all. So I'll have to get some 3/16 or 1/8 inch thick, whatever this is, and make another one and drill into the hole for it. But I think this is how it's going to look. It'll go on there like that, and then it'll get shut in there nice and close. And then everything seems to clear right now. But after I tack that on there and hang it on here again, I might change my mind. This is going to have to get modified. Normally this would get bent down and go around the edge of the bumper, but that's not going to work on this bumper, so I'm going to cut it off and then just reuse this piece as a support under here, since this is much further out than it normally would be. And then luckily this piece is big enough and will be about the right size to go down here somewhere for the plunger lock when you shut it and close it and whatnot. So I'm going to cut this edge off and then tack it to this bumper real quick and then check my alignment again. This is what fabricator's tape is. You can find it at pretty much anywhere. A lot of people call it duct tape. I assure you no taillights were harmed in the filming of this video. So I have more or less successfully melded the two products together. I will have to do some grinding over here because the door does hit this side of the bracket. So I'll have to take and do some grinding on that to make it fit better. Obviously right now nothing's permanent, but it will work. And there is just enough space between the back of the tire carrier and the door of the Cherokee. I will have to entirely come up with another bracket down here for the bottom of the hitch, or hinge, because the one that came with this will no longer work at all. But next I'm going to go back and put together some more pieces to this tire carrier, since I now know that it will work together and whatnot. So here what I got going on is welding on some extra supports that go onto the side of it. They do add support, and they also do add a nice visual look to it. So that's what I'm doing, just tagging in place right now, so I get a better full look of what the tire carrier looks like all together. Dirtbound has made a few different design changes to this tire carrier over the time, because the instructions actually actually says that on the video anyways that those two pieces are actually supposed to be different sizes, but of course mine are both the same, which is fine. It actually makes it so it's more symmetrical, depending on if you want to mount it offset to the driver's or passenger side. It's much easier to flip if there's, the same size, but the instructions will actually tell you that there are different sizes. And there are a few other things that I noticed that the instructions had different things compared to mine, and then the pictures online actually had another few things that are different, which is fine. It's just something to keep in mind. What I've got going on here is there's a center gusset piece that ties the left part and the right part of the upright together. But this will bring us right to the end of the video. Give us a like, subscribe, check us out on Facebook, link will be in the description. If you like this video, I'm sure you'll like just about anything else we have on the channel. Stick around.